Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics and, well, barely know where to begin now. Yesterday, in the House of Commons, Westminster, the oldest parliament in the world, I believe, a government minister stood up and said, very clearly, so as not to be ambiguous, which is always nice, that they will break the law. It will be deliberate. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, yeah, yesterday I was talking in another video about how we're going through a politically mad week, very turbulent this week, and how it means struggling to decide what to prioritise video-wise. Sometimes I even produce a video and schedule it, and then something else blows up really quickly and I have to sort of change it around. I mean, the UK government was ticked off by the Council of Europe for threatening the freedom of the press, for goodness sake. What happens to push something down my list? I mean, what can happen that I haven't as yet, at this point in the week, halfway through, still not talked about that? It is on the list still. Boris Johnson happens, that's what. So, yesterday we were witness to something that genuinely, I mean, I'm a bit of a cynic when it comes to Conservative governments, as you probably know. I didn't think I would witness this in my life. I mean, I know our government break the law a lot, not just a little bit either. You know, they've been found breaking the law by senior courts. They're continuing to break the law. And there's pre-legal and legal action being taken against them on a whole range of issues. And the thing is, though, that the government always denied the law breaking. Even last year, when the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, unanimously agreed that Boris Johnson had broken the law, he denied it. Why? Because he is of the belief, or he was at the time, that the majority of people in this country, more especially his supporters, have respect for the rule of law. This is supposed to be the party of the rule of law. And it's not a good look for the British Prime Minister to be seen breaking the law. He doesn't want to be seen breaking the law. A judge has said he's breaking the law. Art must be biased judges. But yesterday in Parliament, Brandon Lewis, who is the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, a senior member of the government, a cabinet minister, took urgent questions on the announcement that the government would be legislating on areas that had crossover with the Northern Ireland Protocol, amid concerns that it's getting ready for ministers to break international law. Now, MPs on both sides of the House, cannot emphasise that enough, have been showing concern about the government breaking the law. I mean, one thing that legislators should absolutely not do are break laws. They are the ones who make the laws. And if the previous lot of legislators in a previous parliament come up with laws that they don't agree with, well, they change them. And this is no different. But the thing is, this treaty was negotiated by Boris Johnson. It was voted for by the current crop of Conservative MPs, not some past lot that they, should respect anyway until it's all been changed legally. No, by the ones sat there on those benches or at home looking in. And it was signed into law by Boris Johnson. This isn't a legacy law that they want to change. This is their law, owned 100% by them. And in answering questions, the Northern Ireland Secretary didn't seek to calm people down by saying, well, there's no question of breaking the law, of course. Absolutely not. We're just clarifying a few points. That's what I expected him to say. And it wouldn't have impressed legal experts. They'll have carried on pointing out how it's bogus. But it would have at least kept up the pretense that they were acting within the confines of the law, fooling those of their supporters who would like to believe that and have no legal expertise themselves. No, he said, and I quote, "Yes, this does break international law in a very specific and limited way." So there's three things there. The first one is, yes, this does break international law. Actually admitting that the government are seeking to break the law. They're going to break the law. That is their intention. That means that any MP at all who votes for this bill when it comes before Parliament is deliberately voting to break international law. If you write to your Conservative MP, if you have one, and most do. And they respond that they intend to vote for it. Usually what happens when, I've got experience of this, when you contact such an MP and you say, well, I'm disappointed in this, let me know your position. They try and justify it. They'll say, oh, no, it's not doing what you're thinking. That's what the opposition just want you to think. It doesn't actually do that. It's more complicated. They pat you on the head. It's complicated. Leave it to us. Can't do that this time. Can't do that. They cannot justify it by trying to fool you that it isn't what the opposition are making out, because it is exactly what the opposition are making out, because the government has publicly said so. The purpose of the bill is to break international law. That is its purpose. That is what it exists for. There can be no denying that. Any MP who votes for it is voting to break international law. Then the second thing. So then came the justification. 2 words were used to justify it. The first of them was, it's fine because they're doing it in a very specific way. Specific? You mean you know what you're doing? Because that's what specific means in this context. You're not accidentally breaking the law through ignorance. You're not doing something vaguely wrong, but you're not entirely sure what the legal situation is on the matter. Specific means you are breaking the law, you know you are breaking the law, and you know precisely which law or laws you are breaking. That is not justification. That doesn't work in a court of law for us ordinary folk. Yes, Your Honour, I broke the law, but don't worry, I know which one I broke. Can I go now? No, it's not going to work for the government either in an international court of law. 3, then there was the other justification. Well, it's limited. It's very limited. We're breaking it in a very limited way. Limited. That means that they're only breaking some laws or one law or a bit of a law. I mean, it's not like they're breaking every law. Again, how does that work? If I'm charged with an offence and I'm prosecuted, I can't say to the judge, yeah, but I only broke one law. My law breaking was limited, so can I go now? The same answer. No, you cannot. Stay in the dock. It's not bloody all right. And again, it won't cut any ice in an international court either. And as I said yesterday, and I do not understand, and I wish I did, I do not understand why Boris Johnson thinks he can even get away with this. Now, we know that he and Dominic Cummings are working, Dominic Cummings is working, he's just sat there, on trying to nobble British courts to set himself and his government above the law. I've already talked about this recently. He is trying to make certain things unjusticiable, which means that if the government breaks the law, they can't be called to account because it won't be within the court's remit to call them to account, only Parliament. This is very much like the situation in America, where it requires the House of Representatives to call the President to account, which doesn't really work in partisan politics. But he hasn't the power to do that for an international court. There's no power to do that at all. Why would he put himself on a collision course with legal consequences he cannot possibly beat? That's what I would like to know. Is this just Boris Johnson? Is this just because he is a man who adopts whatever solution will get him out of a hole on that particular day, even if it means creating a much more serious problem for the next few days or weeks? Because after all, he'll cross that bridge when he comes to it. Get himself out of the hole he's immediately in, worry about the consequences later, because that is Boris Johnson. I mean, that's possibly the explanation, but even for him, this is insane. And it's especially insane for ministers who are standing up saying this. This wasn't Boris Johnson standing up in Parliament saying this. This was the Northern Ireland Secretary. Why would he want to trash his own career and reputation over this? And as I mentioned in another video yesterday, what is happening now is so beyond the pale that the head of the government's legal department, Jonathan Jones, quit. Theresa May stood up in Parliament yesterday to express her general disapproval and asked whether the UK could be trusted to fulfil its obligations under international treaties if the government is prepared to override one that it itself came up with and signed into law just over half a year ago. Because beyond the moral outrage of this act, for those who have a moral compass that is, there's the practical consequence as well, because we are about to have next to no international trading agreements, to say nothing of other important agreements globally as well. We need to negotiate new ones. Who would negotiate anything with us if we cannot be trusted to even comply with proposals that we came up with? We said they were our proposals. The Secretary of State tried to say, in answer to that that, well, this is a different sort of treaty. It was written with the assumption that subsequent agreements would be reached with the EU. Except that is not true. It may be true that some MPs who voted for it thought that, but that's not how any treaty works, and it is certainly not how this treaty works. Many people said at the time that they did not believe the government would negotiate the deal that they were boasting about with the EU during the transition period. I've been one of them, though there were far more qualified people saying so. In addition, there are many MPs who wanted this withdrawal agreement torpedoed from the start. So Bernard Jenkin, who's one of the hard-right Brexiteers in the party, said that he and his ERG colleagues only voted for the withdrawal agreement because Boris Johnson privately told them he would ditch the agreement once we'd left the EU. This is something that echoes what Steve Baker, who is another prominent Brexiteer, said a few months ago. Not that this is any excuse. They are MPs. To vote for something, to enter in international law on the understanding that the Prime Minister will then break that treaty is a disgrace to their position in Parliament. An absolute disgrace. What I want to know is, what do other MPs think? Because it wouldn't take that many MPs, Conservative MPs, to sink this bill. All of the opposition MPs would oppose it. 40 should do it, 50 would make sure. Under normal circumstances, we should not imagine that there wouldn't be at least 50 Conservative MPs, the so-called party of law and order, to rebel against a government whose stated intention is to break international law. This bill doesn't do things and break the law. This bill is to break the law. And, of course, trash our reputation abroad. But, of course, these are not normal circumstances. So we can't take that for granted. We have to wait and see. This will hopefully be a quick U-turn. But where Brexit is concerned, there will also be a lot of pressure from those hardliners who want the law breaking on the less experienced MPs not to rock the boat. Keep your mouths shut. Let us see how much respect those MPs have for their own office. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.